Hello and welcome back to another episode of this week's watches, and this week we have 10 incredible watches for you guys and girls. As I said last week, which by the way, thank you for the great response to that drop, there was going to be a lot more vintage watches and we are really working on that. As you can see, out of the 10 watches in today's drop, only 3 are modern, the rest are vintage, which is really exciting. And the next few weeks we've got some really great vintage pieces sort of put into the drop, so you'll keep an eye out for those as well. This week really does feature some great pieces. We have the brand new Tudor 54, which I'm excited to show you guys and girls up close. We have a beautiful vintage Omega, some very special vintage Certinas, as well as an awesome modern Certina priced incredibly well. Great Turners and 2 really cool 70s CAMYs. I'm always looking out for these funky 70s pieces. They're not for everyone. I really like them, and that is why I try and find them when they come up. Now, as always, although I forget to say it in every single video, down in the description there is a link to every single watch you see here on the table. It will take you straight to the website where you can view the remaining photos, as well as the additional photos that are linked under the points of mention. This is something we're starting to do with every drop. We've reduced the amount of photos we do for the drop itself, so there's 9 photos for every single watch, and on top of that there is about 10 plus photos shot with the phone in natural light just over there, which is included under the points of mention, because it just makes it much simpler this way. I think a lot of you guys and girls have really appreciated it. It's a more simplified, easier to see and easier to sort of recognize straight away whether a watch is ours, whether you're scrolling on Instagram or just in general when you're looking on the website for your next purchase. So thank you all very much for the feedback on that. I know a lot of you I spoke to prior to making that change, and it was the advice that you gave. I sort of listened to all your opinions and then decided what to do, so I really do appreciate it. But that's enough of the rambling. Let's show you what's on wrist. I am wearing a watch that some of you long-time viewers may recognize. This is a beautiful Oris Arctics GT Day Date that they only made for a very short period of time, with the black dial, the white ring, and the black ceramic bezel. You may see different models with the black ring instead of the white ring, a fully polished stainless steel bezel rather than this black ceramic. There's lots of different variants of this model, but this exact watch reference, sorry, not this exact watch, but this exact reference I owned many years ago. I believe 2016 is when I got it. I enjoyed it for quite a while and unfortunately had to sell it when I was moving to sort of progress my career in the watch world. I had to sell all my watches at that point, and I was left with 1 or 2 watches, which I believe I still own today. And this was one I always regretted, but I was never able to find it again. And just recently, I managed to source one from Japan, and it's now on my wrist again. And it's one of the watches that's not really my sort of taste anymore, I'll be honest. I prefer smaller watches, and it's not quite the design I like now, but emotionally, putting this watch back on, it put me at a place where everything I'm doing now, where I'm sitting now, the office I have here in London, the job I'm doing with 10 incredible watches on the table just for this week, I was dreaming of doing all of that back when I owned this watch originally. So to have this watch back and look at it and remind myself of that dream that I am now living, it's a nice little reminder to me personally, and that's what makes watches so incredible. And I have to thank you guys and girls for all of that. None of this would be possible without you watching, so just a little thank you from me, and that's what this watch represents to me, so I'm very grateful to have it back. But that's enough of the rambling. Let's get on to what you're here to see, and that is the watches. We're going to start with the modern pieces and work our way through the vintage. So let's start with the Tudor Black Bay 54. Let's take a closer look. So what a watch to begin this week's episode with. What you're looking at is the all-new Tudor Black Bay 54, which is in reference to its slightly smaller size in 37 millimeters. It's definitely been a big hit. People are really enjoying this, especially over the 58, which by the way was already sized incredibly well and also a lot smaller than most dive watches are in today's standards, so already pushing that boundary back to smaller watches. And this 54 right here in 37mm is doing that to the next level. It features a few aesthetic changes with the bezel, the crown also being far smaller and closer to the case, and most importantly, Tudor's new clasp with the glide adjust inside. This is a big plus, and I hope they discontinue the 58 soon and reintroduce it with this clasp at the very least, or just do it in general and not really tell anyone. That would be quite fun. So this one you're looking at right here is stickered. It does feature its stickers still on. It has been sized and it has been worn a couple of times just for transparency. This is not a brand new watch. If you sit here in direct light and inspect with a loupe, you will probably find a few hairline scratches, so I will not call this one new, that's for sure. So the reference to this one is 79000N. Inside is the automatic Tudor caliber MT5400, and this one's from April 2023 with its box and paperwork, and as you can see, paired on its bracelet with spare links included. A very, very cool watch, and I am personally a big fan, and let's show it on wrist because that is where this watch really shines. And here we are, paired comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. Now at a glance, I don't think you can actually notice a huge difference between this and the 58. Now granted, if you had them both next to each other, the difference is quite stark, because the 58 is quite a bit bigger, but the 54 is still incredibly well proportioned on the wrist and actually feels far more vintage and true to dimension, and incredibly comfortable, dare I say. I actually prefer it to the 58. Really beautiful watch, and very, very well done to Tudor for this one. What you're looking at is 37mm by 46mm lug to lug, 11mm thick, and 20mm on the lugs. So endless options, although Tudor do have an integrated rubber, which does look fantastic with the end links. I'm actually a big fan, so go check this out on the website and snap it up before someone else does. From the incredible Black Bay 54 in the new smaller size, we're actually going to have a look at a Breitling Super Ocean Heritage in 38mm, so another Heritage smaller dive watch, which is kind of interesting having both in the same drop. Bit of a theme there if you can't tell with the vintage watches and the vintage divers as well. Really great watch, especially for the money. Just over £2,000, and this is box and papers. Yes, it's worn, but that's character in my view, so let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, we have the Breitling Super Ocean Heritage in the smaller size at 38mm. This is an absolute gem, and Breitling was certainly ahead of the game when it came to the smaller dive watch genre, because this watch is from October 2011 with its full box and paperwork, we'll say that now. The reference to this one is A37320, a very great looking watch. If you like the Super Ocean, which I personally do, but find it a bit too big on wrist, which again, I personally do, I think this is the watch for you. It comes paired on its original Breitling mesh with all of its spare links included, but it does look just as good on a black leather or black rubber strap. It is sold in worn condition. As you can see, the bezel has got some wear and tear. The case has been worn and enjoyed, but mechanically it's running beautifully. And again, aesthetically, I actually kind of like it with some wear. I think it really adds to the overall look. Not everyone will. I completely understand that, and that is why we have photographed it honestly, and we are saying there are marks on the bezel. We're not trying to pretend like there isn't or hide that, and we have certainly accounted for that in the price, so do keep that in mind. Inside is the automatic Breitling caliber 37, basically an ETA inside. Again, super reliable, easy to have serviced. Let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, paired on my 7-inch wrist. I think this looks fantastic, and I think it suits the wrist really well. Again, I am aesthetically driven to smaller watches at the moment, and whilst the Oris I'm wearing is certainly on the larger size, I am very comfortable wearing all the way down to 32mm personally, even some 31s, so it comes down to what you're comfortable with, but I really do think you've got to give this a chance if you are considering a smaller dive watch. 38mm by 45.5mm lug to lug, 11.5mm thick, and 20mm on the lug, so endless options. A real gem, especially at this price point, so go check it out on the website today. From there to arguably the steal on the table, and by that I mean just insane value for money. Yes, design isn't going to be for everyone. The NATO strap I'm not particularly much of a fan of. I would put it on a leather or a mesh bracelet or something like that, but either way, this is a very cool Eterna chronograph, and specifically this is the, I'm trying to find it on my sheet, I don't memorize every single watch, believe it or not, I try my best to, but this is the really great Certina DS chronograph automatic 1968 re-edition, with an automatic chronograph movement. I mean, how crazy at this price point, especially when you see the price point. So let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, we have the Certina 1968 re-edition chronograph, a really good looking watch. And again, value for money is insane on this piece, especially when you look at what RRP or retail price is and what we're asking for a watch that is in very good condition. It has been worn, there are a couple of scratches here and there, but overall, you really cannot go wrong with this. And to be honest, a week of wear, you're probably going to put more wear into it than is already on the watch. I'm not going to bore you with the reference to this one, a very long reference. Inside behind the NATO strap, if we can get that off so you can have a quick look, is an automatic chronograph. That is Certina's caliber A05.H31, which is basically an ETA chronograph. So super reliable, nice and easy to have serviced, and just an overall great looking watch. They've really nailed the vintage design, and I thought it was kind of interesting to have a very modern, very big Certina in with some vintage classic Certinas, granted at a very different price point, but still great to see. You have a screw down crown, which doesn't really do an awful lot for the water resistancy because you don't have screw down pushers, but again, still just a nice little feature to have, and a very, very cool looking watch. As I say, not a small watch by any means, but it wears the size well thanks to its short lug to lug. So it's a wide watch, but it's short on the lug to lug, and the strap comes straight off. So even if you have a tiny wrist, that is the total distance, which does make a difference. A little bit awkward on the lug length, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The lug, at 21 millimeters, but there are options out there, and I think this watch would look great on a variety of different straps, but it comes on its original Certina NATO, which, as I stated, I'm not a huge fan of, but it does work with the design and is super comfortable on the wrists. That's enough of the rambling. Let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. Yes, it's a big watch, but I don't find it too big. And again, thanks to that short lug to lug, it really wears well on the wrist. Just a wide watch. So 43mm by 46mm lug to lug, 14.5mm thick, and 21mm on the lugs. It's endless options for this little one. Go check it out on the website today. From there over to probably and arguably the best example you will see ever of this watch. And I feel pretty confident in that because it is incredible. This is a 1966 Certina DS PH200M with its original tritium throughout the dial, its original dial, original Bakelite bezel. Case is fantastic. This is just a incredibly rare and beautiful example that I'm excited to bring you guys and girls. So let's take a closer look at this watch. Now we're getting on to some very special vintage pieces. What you're looking at right here is a Certina DS PH200M original from circa 1966. This is just incredible. The reference to this one is the 5801.117, and as I say, circa 1966, and what you're looking at is all original. That's the original tritium in the hands, the original tritium on the dial, the original dial itself with its crosshair in red, date over there at 3 o'clock, and its original Bakelite bezel. Yes, that is Bakelite, and look at the condition it's in. Bakelite will always have some marks because at the end of the day it is essentially plastic, but for it to survive this long without cracking or without breaking completely is incredible and very rarely seen. The bezel does click both ways. You do have your original screw down Certina crown, and the case is in worn condition. It has seen a polish wheel over the years, but nothing major. You can still see some of the chamfers on the sides as well, which is just absolutely wonderful. As we flip it over, you're presented with the iconic Certina turtle with the turtle finishing on the caseback itself. Nice screw down caseback housing an automatic Certina caliber 25-651, and it comes paired on a period correct tropic rubber strap with a matching Certina buckle. As you can see, this is just a wonderful package and a really, really beautiful example. And as I said in the intro, I highly doubt you're going to come across a better one. So this is what we would call 100% call a collector's piece. And by that we mean it's the kind of piece for someone who is a big collector, either of dive watches or of Certina. This is one that will not come up again, or very unlikely to come up again, because it will end up with a collector who's going to aim to keep it for the long run, because you're just not going to find another one. And that's exactly how it goes. So check out this beautiful watch. Oh no, before we get on to that, let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. There we go. We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves there, weren't we? This is the watch on my 7-inch wrist, 40mm by 47.5mm lug to lug, 13.5mm thick, and that is including that heavily domed acrylic crystal, so do keep that in mind, and 19mm on the lugs. A really, really wonderful example, beautiful watch, and one to definitely consider if you are a serious Certina collector. This is one for you, so go check it out on the website today. From there over to another incredible Certina, again a wonderful example. This one a bit of wear to the bezel, not as amazing condition wise as that one, but still absolutely fantastic and a real collector's piece. This is a beautiful Certina DS automatic on its original Certina bracelet. Let's take a closer look at this one. From one serious Certina to another, this is a wonderful Certina DS automatic, again with the same period, circa 1966. Similar dial in terms of the crosshair in red and the date at 3 o'clock, but what you're featured with here is very, very bold Art Deco style numerals, especially the 2. Look at that, it looks like a Z, and it is just absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm a huge fan of this kind of design, and I think this looks amazing. It's quite a bit less than the other Certina we just looked at, just due to rarity and condition, but arguably this one is just as beautiful and I think just as well preserved. The reference of this one is the 508-113, and as I said, circa 1966. Original dial, original tritium, original friction fit bezel, as you can see, which has got some wear and age, as you'd expect really from a watch from this age. As we start to rotate it round, you will see a beautiful condition case. It's seen a polish wheel, I would say, once or twice over the years, but still remains incredibly strong with its lines. Original Certina crown, as you can see right there. And something to keep in mind is because of the size of the crown and how close it is to the case, sometimes it does catch the bezel when you are rotating. This isn't anything to be alarmed by, it's just a sort of design oversight, I would say, from Certina back in 1966. So there's that. As we flip it around and open up the bracelet so you can see the case back, same style case back with the iconic Certina turtle and Certina stylized turtle on the case back itself, and inside is the exact same movement, automatic Certina caliber 25-651. This one does compare on its original Certina bracelet, DS signed, as you can see, with fitted end links, obviously hollow for this period. Something to keep in mind is this is worn, it has got age, and you do have adjustments on the clasp to get a fit, but it's I would personally probably wear it on a strap. This bracelet's totally fine for wearing, but something to keep in mind with vintage bracelets in general is they're a lot more delicate than modern bracelets, and you do have to be slightly more careful, so just keep that in mind. But they show this on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This bracelet will comfortably fit about a 7.25-inch wrist, so 7.25-inch, with the adjustments on the clasp all the way out, so do keep that in mind. But here we go on my wrist. It looks fantastic, fits really nicely, super comfortable, and a really great look, especially on the bracelet. So what you're looking at is 38.5mm by 45.5mm lug to lug, 12.5mm thick, and 19mm again on the lugs, with drilled lug holes just like the last one, so strap changing is a breeze. Go check this one out on the website today. And over to, again, a 1968. So we had two 1966, now a 1968. This is an Omega DeVille automatic on a bracelet with its box and paperwork, which is really interesting. Again, really great value for money. Let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, we have a beautiful Omega DeVille automatic right here, as you can see, paired on its original bracelet in wonderful condition. It has definitely seen some wear, it has been enjoyed over the years, but as you'd expect really from a watch of this period. What you're looking at is the reference 166.029 from December 1968, as signed by the paperwork, which is provided. This watch does come with its box and paperwork, including the extra booklets and the booklet holder. Go see the box shot on the website to see more. That is original dial, original hands, and the dial and hands do feature its original tritium. The dial's tritium is just little dots around the outside of the indices. Very hard to see with the naked eye, but as you take a closer look or loop it, you'll see beautiful tritium on there, which is aged fantastically. Date over there at 3 o'clock, and something to keep in mind with this watch, takes a little bit of getting used to. Inside is the automatic Omega caliber 565. For those of you big Omega fans out there, you'll know that first position is to change the time, and the final position is to change the date, and it's a push-pull date. So you pull it, and it pops the date ahead, as you can see. So that's how you change the date on this watch. And it goes without saying, it does change over at midnight, as you'd expect for a watch with an automatic date change, which they had for a little while. Original Omega sign crown, Omega sign caseback with waterproof proudly stated, although please don't take this watch anywhere near water, I beg of you. Original bracelet with its end links. This bracelet has been worn and enjoyed, so do keep in mind there is stretch and wear on this bracelet. This is often how these bracelets end up looking, because it is just folded pieces of metal holding it all together is kind of incredible, really. So over time, these get stretched and worn. You can have them fitted, basically someone takes them apart and redoes the whole thing. But to be honest, I think it'd probably cost about a third, if not a half, of what the watch is worth. So it's up to you whether you want to have that done. We obviously do not have that done. And something to keep in mind is this watch does look fantastic on a brace, on a strap as well. That's often how I've had these watches in the past, this reference anyway, on straps. The bracelets, for some reason, well, actually not for some reason, it's probably because of the wear, people just throw them away. I have heard of that, not so much anymore because there's always a value still to them, but people just don't wear them often, which is a shame, but I get it. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This watch will fit a 7.5-inch wrist quite comfortably. So it is quite a big bracelet, and that's something to keep in mind. What you're looking at dimension-wise is 34.5mm by 39.5mm lug to lug. This is a tonneau-shaped case, not perfectly round, so it does wear bigger than the dimensions will lead you to believe. 10.5mm thick, that's including that domed acrylic, so it's incredibly thin on the wrist. And on the lugs is 19mm. So there are options out there. It's not as easy as an 18mm or a 20mm, but there are options. So go check out this watch on the website today. Now we're going on to two fantastic Eternas. We're going to start with my favorite of the two, just out of my 70s love. This is the Eterna Matic Contiki 10 on its original NSA stretch Eterna bracelet. Really fantastic, looks great, and again, value for money is incredible. Let's take a closer look at this one. Next up we have the wonderful Eterna Matic Contiki 10, which is just incredible. Look at those box indices with the tritium proudly dotted at the end with the black on the indices themselves. The hands as well with the tritium enclosed into the black. Again, just matching that dial beautifully. And the dial is this wonderful grey, which is this speckling patina that's developed, which makes it like a stardust kind of dial. Date over there at 6 o'clock and a very solid looking case. This is a really interesting watch. The watch reference is 129T, and this one's, I would say, is circa early 1970s, maybe late 60s. It's very difficult to age Eternas exactly via their serial number, so that is why we have to circa it, which is basically putting an estimation on it. One really cool thing to keep in mind is this is the original Eterna crystal, which has the Eterna symbolum right there in the center, like how Omega do it. I had only ever seen this once before on Eterna, so it's really great to see it right there. You've got the Eterna logo with the 5 dots proudly in the center. Really cool. Eterna signed crown and Eterna signed case back. Now inside this is the automatic Eterna caliber 1489K, which is very similar to the Omega we just looked at, the caliber 565, where the first position is to change the time and the final position is a pull push to change the date. It pops, as you can see, like so. So that's just something to keep in mind. It does compared on a NSA bracelet, which I believe is definitely made for Eterna, because that end link is a solid piece, a solid bar with a fitted piece that's held in place, making it basically a solid end link. So what you're looking at there is a solid piece of metal wedged in there, which is kind of amazing, really. You can still take it out and fit a strap. You just got to have a very thin tool to get in there, and this bar comes off and the bit that's held in place comes off as well. Great thing about these NSA bracelets is this clasp is sprung loaded, which just means throughout the day, if you swell a lot, this is going to fit you a lot nicer. It is an absolute pain in the arse to have links taken out and put in, so do let us know if you need that. I'm not too sure we could source any spare links, but we can certainly take some links out, but it does take a while, so please let us know well in advance that you'd like that done. Now let's move straight on to showing it on wrist. It fits my 7-inch wrist comfortably as is, without that clasp stretching, so I would be comfortable wearing this, and then in the summer as I swell, it will sort of spring with my wrist expansion, which I'm a big fan of. So case-wise, what you're looking at is 35mm by 40.5mm lug to lug, only 11.5mm thick and 18mm on the lugs. So threat not, if this bracelet won't fit you, there are strap options that would look fantastic on this. Maybe a nice really light grey, bordering on white or cream suede. That's what I'd probably put it on, but then I'll put everything on suede. So go check out this watch on the website today. Next up, another Eterna Matic, this time the Contiki on its original Eterna Gay Frez bracelet, which has definitely been loved, it's definitely been used. Look at this watch, looks fantastic on a leather strap, so if this bracelet is too worn for you, Either way, this watch is worth the money still. Really beautiful example. Let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, we have this beautiful Eterna Matic Contiki, I would say from the mid to late 1960s. Again, impossible to say for definite without original paperwork or a database which doesn't exist. There are some places which claim to have it, but again, it's not really backed up by a huge amount of data. So for us, I would prefer to say circa mid to late 1960s and give ourselves a bit of a range. But what you're looking at is a beautiful curved dial, which sits in there very proudly, and you can see the indices are wonderful with tritium dots around the outside, and the hands very elegant, very thin, again with tritium. And again, interestingly, with this one, you have your original Eterna sign crystal, so the 5 little dots proudly right there in the center. I'm not too sure if the camera's going to pick it up, but very, very cool to see. This is a really wonderful example, a beautiful curved case, almost like the Francois Bourgel cases. It's not Francois Bourgel, but a beautiful looking case and profile nonetheless. Original sign crown, which is just delightful, and as we flip it over, you're presented with a gold emblem, which has definitely faded over the years but still present, showcasing the Contiki boats. This is the reference 130T, and inside is the automatic Eterna caliber 1412UD, and as I say, circa mid to late 1960s. It's paired on its original Gay Frez bracelet, this really wonderful 4-link bracelet, which definitely has seen some wear and is stretched and is very, very large. So again, taking links out is something we can have done, but it will take some time. It's not an on-the-spot job, so do keep that in mind. As I said, Gay Frez, which is was a bracelet maker, iconic by the goat right there on the clasp. So you ever see this little symbol with the G and F on either side, it's a special bracelet and should be considered as such. Just a very well regarded bracelet maker. Let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, paired on my 7-inch wrist. The bracelet is massive. I would probably say easily up to an 8.5-inch wrist, to be honest with you, on full extension. So a big bracelet. Personally, if I was to buy this watch, I would actually take the bracelet off, keep the bracelet aside and preserved like this, because it's quite a rare and special thing, and I'd be wearing this watch on a leather strap because, in my opinion, it looks better on a leather strap anyway. That's just my opinion. So what you're looking at is 34mm by 41.5mm lug to lug, only 12mm thick, and again 18mm on the lug, so endless options, nice and easy. And if you would like a strap thrown in with the order, just send me an email and I'll be happy to do that. So go check out this beautiful watch on the website today. And now we have two fantastic cameras. We're going to start with my favorite of the two, which is the Montego Red, and a really, really cool looking watch. Again, if you're into 70s pieces, this is going to speak to you. If not, it's not going to be for you at all, but you might still be interested to see the design. So let's take a closer look. Next up, a undeniably and unforgivable 1970s design with this CAMY Geneve super automatic, as proudly stated right there on the top. Montego, a very, very cool design. And as I say, very 1970s, which I am personally a huge fan of. You have this vibrant red proudly stated on the dial with a contrasting orange second hand, tritium on the loom and the indices, a big day date over there with a contrasting white and black, which again I just think looks fantastic, and this big silver ring on the inside. And then we come to the case, which again super interesting. You have this sort of radial brushing on the side, polished parts at the top. It's just a very, very good looking piece, in my opinion, and I think it really suits it. Original CAMY sign crown, which is not something you'd see often. And as we open up this bracelet and take a look at the back, you can see proudly stated is CAMY and all the details. This is a reference 7616, and inside is interestingly an automatic ETA caliber 2789, so a very reliable movement. This is by no means a very cheap throwaway watch from the 1970s. This is a well thought out, in my opinion, well thought out watch, design and build quality wise. It comes paired on this original CAMY sign bracelet, which has this interesting link design, very similar of NSA, but not an NSA as far as I'm aware. Nice straight fitted end bars as well. Again, design wise, this is really for me. I love this kind of stuff. It won't be for everyone, and that's okay. It will fit a 7-inch wrist at maximum, and you're looking at 40mm by 42.5mm lug to lug, 12mm thick and 20mm on the lug. So you could swap this out for a really cool red strap. I think that would look fantastic in the summer, maybe like a thin red rubber strap, but either way on the bracelet, it's a look in and of itself. So go check out this watch on the website today. And the final CAMY on the table, this is the Geneve Times Square 44 automatic with a faceted crystal and a really great blue dial. Again, value for money for 70s quirky vintage pieces. You're not going to see people wearing these. If you want to go to a watch meetup and be wearing something just really unique that is going to catch people's attention and be like, what is that? We have to talk about that. These are the kind of watches that will do that. You know, at the end of the day, the 54 is a fantastic watch, and I mean this with zero disrespect to the 54 because it's a watch that I think I'm going to have eventually in the collection. This you're going to see a lot of, and that's because it's built and it's just such a great watch. Something like this is just a talking point. So let's take a closer look at that. And the final watch on the table today, another CAMY, this time the Geneve Times Square 44, as proudly stated right there on the dial. And before we get to that dial, let's just appreciate that crystal for a second. That is a multi-faceted crystal. Replacing this, I'll be honest with you, is going to be near impossible unless you have a crystal made, and I don't know of anyone who's actually making crystals quite like this with the facets all around. It does have some marks, it does have some wear on the crystal, but as I said, there's not a lot we can do in terms of replacing it, so unfortunately that will be the case. Now onto the dial, you have this gradient blue dial coming from the center really light out to the darker towards the edge. Pig block indices with tritium on the inside, and nice tritium handset with again a contrasting orange hand, a lighter orange to what was on the Montego. Day date over there at 3 o'clock again with the white and black, and this very interesting TV style case with lots of big angles and big sharp edges. CAMY signed crown again, and as we open up the bracelet, you'll see proudly stated again a CAMY case back. The reference to this one is 7620, and again inside is an automatic ETA caliber 2789, another well-built watch. And the bracelet to this one is an integrated design, so no swapping this out for a leather strap, with a CAMY signed clasp, as you can see. Now, I know I just said no swapping this out onto a clasp, onto a strap. You could have a strap made as long as it's made with this design. Strap tailor could probably do something like that, as could a couple of other strap makers, but it's not something we would be able to help with, unfortunately. But either way, a very cool 70s watch. So let's show this one on wrists and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This one will fit up to a 7.5-inch wrist on full extension. And again, look at that. That is absolutely just 70s to the extreme. 39.5mm by 45mm lug to lug, 12mm thick and 9.5mm at the lugs. That's at that part. Obviously tapers out a lot more to about 21 and tapers down towards the clasp. So go check out this gem on the website today. So there you have it, guys and girls, 10 incredible watches this week. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Something different, that's for sure, from the quirky 70s to the more mainstream 70s to fantastic 60s to some modern great pieces as well. It's been a fun drop to curate, and next week is even more crazy. We've got some modern stuff from 7th Friday all the way over to Hanhart, Helios, Grand Seiko, and a beautiful vintage Enica, which you're going to want to see if you're into your vintage watches. This is a special watch. I'm excited to bring it to you guys and girls. So tune in next week. But in the meantime, enjoy these pieces and all the other watches that are available at kibblewatches.co.uk. We'll see you all again next time. Take care.